I started by diving into the HOA rules. I spent hours on my laptop combing through the Silverpine Heights bylaws, property maps, and even local ordinances about private property. I found a section on driveways, buried on page 47, that said residents could allow limited non-disruptive use of their property as long as it didn't block access or cause safety issues. Bingo! Mrs. Carter's kids weren't exactly model citizens, but they weren't breaking any laws either. Sophie's threats were built on quicksand, and I was ready to prove it. Next, I hit the pavement. Literally. I went door to door chatting with neighbors to get their take on the situation. I knocked on Mr. Rivera's door first. He was out front, watering his roses. "Hey, Mr. Rivera, have you noticed the kids using my driveway?" I asked. He chuckled. "Yeah, I've seen them. Doesn't bother me though, they're just having fun." I got similar responses from 8 other houses. Turns out, most people didn't care. Some even thought it was sweet to see kids playing outside. Better yet, a few neighbors, like Mrs. Jenkins down the street, were fed up with Sophie's heavy-handed rules. "She fined me $100 last month because my dog barked too loud," Mrs. Jenkins grumbled. I realized I wasn't alone in this fight. Armed with my research and a growing list of allies, I felt a spark of hope. I started keeping a detailed log of every time the kids used my driveway, 15 times a day on average, mostly after school, and snapped photos for proof. I even pulled footage from my security camera, showing nothing but kids on bikes, yet no chaos or danger in sight. I was building my case, brick by brick. Sophie might have the HOA on her side, but I had the truth, and a neighborhood ready to back me up. The next meeting was going to be a showdown. The air was thick with tension as I walked into the Silverpine Heights Community Center for the next HOA meeting. My heart pounded, but I was ready. Armed with my stack of evidence, property maps, HOA bylaws, neighbor testimonies, and security camera footage, I felt like a lawyer stepping into court. Sophie sat at the front, her sharp eyes scanning the room like a hawk, her short blonde hair perfectly in place. She looked smug, as if she'd already won. The room buzzed with about 30 neighbors, some nodding off, others whispering nervously. I took a deep breath and found a seat, knowing this was my chance to turn the tide. The meeting started with the usual drone about lawn care and trash schedules. But then Sophie seized the mic. "We've got a serious issue," she declared, her voice slicing through the chatter. "Ethan's driveway is being turned into a public highway, endangering our kids and violating HOA rules. Action must be taken." She pointed a finger at me, and a few heads turned my way. My stomach flipped, but I kept my cool. When the board called for comments, I raised my hand, and they gave me the floor. I stood, my voice steady despite the nerves. "I've done my homework," I began, holding up my documents. The HOA bylaws, page 47, allow limited use of private driveways if it's non-disruptive. I've logged 15 uses a day by Mrs. Carter's kids, and my security footage shows no danger, just kids on bikes. 8 neighbors agree it's not a problem. I passed around the evidence, and a murmur rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Jenkins even chimed in. "Sophie, you fined me for my dog barking. This feels like another power grab." Sophie's face tightened. "This is about safety," she snapped, cutting me off. "Ethan's encouraging chaos." But her argument faltered as I countered, "I'm not encouraging anything. I'm just living here. If there's a real issue, let's solve it together. But this feels like overreach." The board members exchanged glances, their pens scribbling notes. I could see doubt creeping into their expressions. One elder, Mr. Patel, leaned forward. "Sophie, are you sure this is worth the fight? The evidence doesn't back a crisis." As the discussion heated up, Sophie's smugness cracked. She muttered something under her breath, but the room was shifting. Neighbors nodded, and a few whispered support. After the meeting, Sophie cornered me, her smile icy. "We'll see about this," she hissed. "You haven't won yet." I walked home, adrenaline pumping, knowing I'd rattled her. But her parting threat lingered. Whatever she had planned next, I'd be ready. Sophie's icy threat at the HOA meeting echoed in my mind, and I knew she wasn't bluffing. She was the kind of person who'd rather burn the whole neighborhood down than admit defeat. But even I couldn't have predicted how far she'd take things. 3 nights later, I was jolted awake by flashing red and blue lights outside my window. I threw on a robe and stepped onto my porch, my heart racing. 2 police cars were parked in front of my house at 36 Silverpine Heights, their sirens silent but lights blazing. A small crowd of neighbors had gathered, whispering and pointing. In the middle of it all stood Sophie, clipboard in hand, talking animatedly to the officers like she'd just caught a master criminal. I approached, still groggy, and asked an officer, "What's going on?" He turned to me, his tone calm but firm. "We got a 911 call about suspicious activity on your property, sir. We're just checking it out." Before I could process that, Sophie spun around, her eyes wild with triumph. "That's him," she shouted, jabbing a finger at me. "He's been letting strangers use his driveway like a public street. It's a safety hazard. My kids can't even play outside anymore." Her voice dripped with exaggeration, painting me as some kind of neighborhood menace. I blinked, trying to wrap my head around the absurdity. Strangers? Her kids? She lived 5 houses down. She didn't even have kids. The officer raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical, and turned back to me. "Is that true, sir? Are unauthorized people using your driveway?" I shook my head, keeping my voice steady despite the adrenaline. "No, officer. It's just a few neighbors' kids, mostly Mrs. Carter's, using it as a shortcut to the basketball court. It's been happening for weeks, and I've already addressed it with the HOA. There's no danger here." The officer nodded, jotting something down. "Do you have proof of that?" he asked. I smirked, ready for this. "Right this way," I said, gesturing toward my house. Sophie's face darkened as I led the officer inside, knowing I had the evidence to shut her down for good. This was about to get messy, but I was ready to end it. As I led the officer into my living room, Sophie's smug grin faltered. I could feel her eyes burning into my back, but I stayed focused. I grabbed my laptop, pulled up the security footage, and hit play. The screen showed Mrs. Carter's kids biking down my driveway at 36 Silverpine Heights, 15 times that day alone, laughing and weaving, but never causing chaos. I handed over my logbook, detailing each incident, and pointed to photos of the minor scratches on my car, proving the issue was manageable. The officer watched silently, his expression shifting from curiosity to understanding. When the video ended, he turned to Sophie. "Ma'am, this doesn't look like an emergency. It's just kids using a shortcut with the owner's tolerance. There's no illegal activity or safety threat here." Sophie's face flushed red, her clipboard trembling in her hands. "This is exactly what I've been trying to stop," she protested. "He's turning our neighborhood into a free-for-all." But her argument crumbled as the officer shook his head. "Based on this evidence, we're not needed. You might want to take this up with the HOA board, not 911. I couldn't help but feel a surge of relief as the officers packed up, their lights fading into the night. The crowd outside dispersed, some neighbors throwing me supportive nods. Mrs. Carter, who'd wandered over, looked sheepish. "I'll talk to the kids about using the side street instead," she mumbled, avoiding my gaze. It wasn't a full apology, but it was a start. Sophie stormed off, muttering about next steps, but her authority was visibly shaken. By morning, word had spread. Neighbors texted me, thanking me for standing up to Sophie's overreach. Mrs. Jenkins even brought over a batch of cookies, saying, "We've needed someone to challenge her for years." The $500 fine vanished from my mailbox, replaced by a curt note from the HOA retracting it. Sophie's reign of terror wasn't over yet. She'd likely plot her comeback. But for now, I'd won. This victory wasn't just mine, it was the neighborhood's, and it felt damn good. Winning the battle over my driveway at 36 Silverpine Heights felt like a triumph, but it taught me lessons I'll never forget. First, standing up for yourself is non-negotiable. I could have let Sophie's $500 fine and her 911 stunt intimidate me, but I didn't. I fought back with evidence, security footage, logs, and neighbor support, and it paid off. That showed me how crucial it is to know your rights, especially when dealing with overzealous HOAs. If I hadn't dug into the bylaws or rallied my neighbors, I'd probably still be paying fines for something I didn't do wrong. Second, preparation is power. My late-night research sessions, poring over property maps and HOA rules, turned the tide. Having those 15 daily logs of the kids' driveway use and the video proof was what made the officer dismiss Sophie's claims on the spot. It's a reminder to always document everything when you're up against someone who bends the rules for control. Knowledge and evidence can dismantle even the loudest bullies. Finally, community matters. I started this fight alone, but winning came from the support of neighbors like Mrs. Jenkins and Mr. Rivera. Their willingness to speak up at the HOA meeting and back me after the police drama showed how a united front can topple unchecked power. Sophie wanted to divide us, but her antics ended up bringing Silverpine Heights closer together. This whole ordeal started with a few bikes and scooters, but spiraled into a showdown that exposed Sophie's overreach. It's proof that even the smallest issue can reveal bigger problems, like an HOA drunk on power, and that one person's resolve can spark change. If you've got a story about an overbearing neighbor or HOA, drop it in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. Hey, so that's the wild story of how I took on Sophie and won my driveway back at Silverpine Heights. Looking back, it's crazy how a few kids on scooters turned into a full-on HOA showdown. Here's the deal with HOA laws. They can make reasonable rules, like keeping lawns neat or limiting noise, but they can't break federal or state laws, like the ADA or property rights. In my case, Sophie tried to twist the rules to fine me about $500 and call the cops, but my driveway was my property, and her overreach didn't hold up legally. That's why knowing your rights is key. The big lesson? Stick together, know your stuff, and don't stay quiet when something's unfair. My neighbors, Mrs. Jenkins, Mr. Rivera, and others, had my back, and that made all the difference. If I just ignored Sophie, she'd still be ruling with an iron fist. So, what should you do? Keep evidence like I did. Photos, videos, logs. Talk to a lawyer if it gets messy, or rally your neighbors to stand up. Don't let bullies win. This fight taught me we're stronger together. Hey, if you've got your own HOA horror story, share it below. And let me know, where are you tuning in from? Can't wait to hear from you.